Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hope that you are well. It is lovely to see you. Thank you for making that adjustment today. I completely forgot that I needed to be someplace at noon, and I was afraid I wasn't going to be back in time for 1 o'clock. So thanks for adjusting to 1:30. I'm glad to see you. And we are here to kind of run through understanding how to pull numbers, both your numbers, the market center's numbers, town's numbers, use them in statistical work, all that good stuff. However, clearly I'm only speaking to Amy because she's the only one brave enough. Oh, no, I'm speaking to Amy and Donna now. That's spectacular. There we go. Thank you, Anna and Bogdan and Michelle. It's funny. I can look at all those cameras turning on. It's spectacular. So with a small group, it's actually kind of a little more powerful because we can get real clear about what it is you want to be certain we cover. Generally speaking, in this session, I kind of show you how to pull your own numbers, how to pull our organization's numbers, and then compare them to the market. So I can kind of start there. I also want to show you how to pull month supply of inventory for each town or each price point, if that works. As well as looking at year over year or month over month type comparisons. For example, what was 2020's median sale price compared to 2021, so that as of January 1, 2022, we know what that year over year increase was, which will be helpful for your buyers and your sellers. Does that sound like, is there anything else that I should cover that I didn't just mention, or does that sound like a potent itinerary? Thumbs up from Bogdan, thumbs up from Amy, 2 thumbs up from Michelle. Great, okay, good. So we'll start there, and if there's something as we're going through that you say, hey, you know what, can you go down this bunny trail? You know I'm bunny trail prone anyway, so just direct me to the bunny trail you'd like me to go down, and we'll go down that one to get you the information that you need. All right, so you'd think I would have logged into the MLS already, but I did not. So let me just go ahead and do that and then get that up and running for you. Oh, look, it's Emmy winner Jennifer Harkins. I didn't know she was joining us today. How spectacular to see you. Oh, no, you didn't win an Emmy. You won a family reunion registration. That's right. I always get those two things confused.
Rick, it's pretty darn close, though.
I couldn't agree more. All right. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. There we go. Okay, so I will keep my chat open. When I'm sharing my screen, it's tough for me to see the participant list. If you have a question, do me a favor and just raise your little Zoom hand, because that moves you to the top of my screen, and then I can see you, or just pop it in the chat, and I'll keep my chat open in the bottom corner here. So who do I see on my screen? Only a few of you. Jennifer, do me a favor, just tell, you can see the Smart MLS on my screen? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Good. So we're going to go into the MLS, and let me start by showing you kind of where I always start with this kind of stuff. Okay. So as those of you who have been to this session before know, I do most everything I do in the MLS off of this search here, the cross-property search, because all these other ones up here are typically specific to a certain type of real estate. And the searching that I'm doing is for statistical purposes. I want to have access to everything. I may not want everything, but I want access to everything. And so I'm going to go with the search that makes that the simplest. And that to me is the cross property search. So that's where I will start. And that screen looks just like this. Let's do the small stuff first and then work up to the bigger stuff. So let's start with your numbers, right? Let's start with your numbers. And so if you say you're looking for your stats for 2020, right? You all have an MLS code, right? And so you're going to be utilizing that MLS code to run some numbers. And what you really want to do is you want to get to what I call the box, because the box is going to show up a bunch of different times in our conversation today. So the first thing you want to do is just kind of see what the story is with your sales. I can tell you that whenever I run stats, I purposely exclude rentals, both residential and commercial rentals, mostly because they skew all the numbers, right? Remember the volume for a rental, if you're looking to kind of get like an average or a median sale price, if you have 15 rentals and they're all in that $1,200 to $1,500 a month price range, and then you have a couple of sales, well, from a median perspective, it's going to pull the median way down because you have so many smaller numbers at the bottom with the rentals. So if it were me, I would just exclude all the rentals. Everything I present to you guys on morning calls or anytime I'm utilizing statistics, they're without rentals. Rentals is just kind of, you know, gravy on top of my mashed potatoes, but the mashed potatoes and the meatloaf is all the sales. So I go ahead and I check all the property types except the 2 rentals. And then I come down here for closed units, right? Because your stats that you're looking to compare with the market and or the market center should always be closed, because that's what we can see in the rearview mirror. So the closings, when you click closed, as you know, it does a rolling 12 months. It rests 0 minus 365. So what I would encourage you to do is just change that to the date, right? 1/21 to 12/31/21. So that's the entire year of 2021. The good news is you can go through like late April or May and just use last year's numbers before you have to really update it with first quarter numbers to keep things accurate. So you're in a spot now where using last year's year-to-date numbers are more than fine. There are some people who keep their numbers current based on a rolling 12 months. I can tell you that's awesome. You just constantly have to be doing it then to keep them current. So now you have the time period, right? And you can see here at the bottom of your screen that right now there's over 5,000 matches, right? That's because we didn't go down here and tell it who. So now you have to just tell it who. So in the list agent ID, you pop in your code, right? And I'll just use a code that I happen to know. You'll see now that skews down to 14 listings sold in the previous 12-month period of time. You click on results. Then at the bottom of the results page, you'll see a stats section. See where it says stats right here at the bottom? You're going to click on stats and then click on tabular. So stats and then tabular is what you want. And that brings you the box. That's what I call the box. Because it's a snapshot of this particular agent's sales. You can see again, right up here, you've got 14 closed listings. This is all the list side. You've got an average days on market of 67. You've got a median sale price of $595.5, which is going to be less important here than it is when we start getting into townwide stuff, right? You have a volume sold of just under $10 million. And you have a list to sale ratio here of 101%. You see, average list to sale ratio. You see where I'm pulling that? 101%. So just this one little box gives you a real snapshot of, you know, what's going on, and you can get a lot of the numbers that you'll use to compare yourself to the market center and then yourself to the Marquette right from this right from this page. So I'm just going to jot some of these down on the list side, right? We have 67 days on market. We have 101% of list to sale ratio. Now, by the way, if you're curious as to how this does this math, it's list to sale ratio are these two numbers, right? It's the list price divided by the, it's the closed price divided by the list price, right? So if you divide 750 by 652, 357, you get 101%, or at least that's the rounded version of that. Questions on how I got this? Questions on the data you're looking at? So this is you, right? When you put in your code, this box will be you for the time period that you've asked it for. Now, if you also have buy sides, you can also go back to the criteria and change at the bottom here. Instead of popping your code into the list side, you pop it into the sale side, and then you run the results for that. Right, this agent has a heavier list side business than a buyer side business. However, if you wanted the stats on that, you could come, it's another $2 million in volume. Now remember, days on market and list to sale ratio when you're on the buyer side, just not quite as relevant, right? But if you need it or want it, this is where you get it. So there's a box for either. Now, someone will ask the question, so I'll go ahead and answer it before you ask it. There is a box right here that says agent ID for agents combined listing and sales activity. I will tell you, I'll put that in there and see what we get. Okay, so we do get 18 matches this time. What's interesting to me is that I sometimes find that that's not quite as accurate as you want it to be. So if we run the stats from that, and I think it's because if you're on both sides of a transaction, I'm not sure it brings you both. I'm not sure it adds in the volume twice. I think it only does it once. So in this particular case, you've got both list side and sale side combined. If you're looking for like a total volume sold, you have that number there. But remember, as a listing agent, your days on market and your list to sale ratio might be skewed if you add in the buy side of the business, because now you've got other listing agents' numbers skewing your numbers. So I like to do them separate. If you want total numbers and like volume, do them separate and just add them together. Like units and volume, run them separately and just add them together, because I think you get better, more accurate data than using this combined code. I can't prove that. It is just my opinion from what I've seen in the past. However, it's my theory and I'm sticking to it. Any questions on running your data? All right, so now let's take a half step up and run the organization's data, right? Now, depending on what it is you're looking to do, you're going to run this a couple of different ways. I'm going to run it one way and then tell you how you can break it down even further. So if I wanted to compare myself, right? So what I know is we had 67 days on market, 101% list to sale ratio, right? Those were my numbers. What if I wanted to see how I was faring compared to my colleagues in the market center? Well, what we'd have to do is we'd have to take out the agent IDs at the bottom, and we'd have to start over here with list office IDs, right? So you just move to office IDs. Now, when I do things for you guys, I combine us all in one big group for KW203. That includes a bunch of codes, because you can't search by firm, right? We do have a firm code, but here at least, you can't search by firm. So what I do then is I add in the 4 codes that feed these numbers for us, and that's going to be the Ridgefield Market Center number of KELW 120. I'm typing those on my screen, so on the screen so you can see them. The extension from the Ridgefield Code, which is Newtown, which is KELW 130. You have the Stamford Market Center, which is 3548. And then you have the extension off the Stamford Market Center, which is the Westport location, which is KWLY01. Right, so if you put in those 4 codes, you get then our organization. You get KW203 numbers. And you can see on the list side, we sold 1,289 listings last year in the state of Connecticut. This does not pull the New York stuff, just by the way, unless New York stuff was specifically listed on our MLS as well. So you click results and you click stats, just like we did the last time. And guess what? You get the box, just like we did the last time. And so on the list side, you can see a couple of things. You can see 1,289 units. You can see $646 million in volume. You can see that the average days on market for the organization as a whole was 52, right? And the list to sale ratio at 101. So when we ran the agent code before, right? So if that was you before, you were at 67 days on market and 101% list to sale ratio. So in terms of how your inventory is faring versus your colleagues, right? It's taking about 2 weeks longer to sell, 67 versus 52. However, for about the same list to sale ratio. Right, and what you want to do is you want to run those numbers to make sure that your numbers are always at or better than the market centers, right? Because the market centers numbers are almost always at or better than the Marquette. And so you want to make sure that your numbers are the ones pulling us up, right? Because what happens when you list property that sells quicker at a higher list to sale ratio? What does that do for you and for your clients?
Make everybody more money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Everybody makes more money.
But you lose 2 sales.
Say it again, Bogdan.
But you lose 2 sales if you sell it too quick. Because, right, for each listing, you should have 3 transactions.
Well, yeah, but there are, yeah, so I see your point. However, there are ways around that, right? You want things to sell quickly. You want things to sell quickly. And then you just have a conversation around the fact that you're going to continue to host open houses. The seller has given you the permission to go ahead and do that. And the conversation you have with the buyer's agent is, look, we're not searching for new buyers to replace your offer. We've accepted yours and we're moving forward, right? We'll sign a contract to that effect. However, please note, I am going to host an open house Saturday and Sunday and continue some marketing efforts, right? That's, you just have to have those conversations and set that in play. Just because you accepted an offer doesn't mean you have to shut down marketing efforts, is the point. Awesome. So that's
Can I
how
also add, Rick, that you can also do follow-up media around the fact that how fast you sell things or how quickly, you know, to add on social media or other means of direct mails about that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So you can use the fact that you sold things quickly to attract more sellers your way, right? Because here's what's real. The sellers want things to sell quickly. They don't want to languish on the market. And what you have to make sure you're telling them is the faster you find the best buyer, typically the more money you end up putting in your pocket. Right? Time is no one's friend when it comes to real estate. So you want to get those out there. Anyway, from a statistics perspective, you see how I'm running these, right? Your numbers, the market center's numbers. Now, if you choose to only utilize a smaller subset of this information, for example, if you are located in Newtown and you only want to see what the agents affiliated with that Newtown location are doing, well, then you would just skew that down in the criteria section, and you'd remove everything from here except KELW 130, right, which is the Newtown location. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, because you always, to me, you want a larger sample of. But I guess if for whatever reason you want to skew that down, you've got 4 different locations here. The Danbury location does not have its own MLS code. Those agents typically are inside of the Ridgefield code. So you've got 4, even though we have 5 locations, you have 4 MLS codes to work from. And whenever I do it, I just put in all of them because that represents all of us. Make sense? Okay, so now I want to show you, I want to go back and just simply show you how we then pull the information for town by town, right? Because now you're going to say, all right, well, how do I compare? What are the days on market and the list to sale ratio for the towns that I sell heavily in? So now let's just skew it down, right? Let's go to Stamford. Right, so you're going to skew things down. You're going to keep all of this the same, the property types. The county is going to be Fairfield. The city is going to be Stamford. You get specific by the area you're looking for. You're still looking at last year's sales. And now you're going to remove all of the identifying information for offices or agents, because you want everything that has sold in that particular town. So you'll see here that in year 2021, the city of Stamford had 2,064 list side sales. So you hit results, and just like the last 2, you do stats and tabular. And this gives you the box on Stamford real estate, or whatever town you choose, right? It's the same, you just go and change the town and you run the same report, the box comes up for each of these. So in Stamford, you had 68 average days on market with 100% list to sale ratio. So if you go back and say, all right, well, so my agent code before pulled 67 days on market and 101% list to sale ratio. I now have an opportunity, because I know this information, when I'm going to list a property or sit with a seller in Stamford, to say 2 things. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one of the reasons that you should list with me this evening is I sell homes faster, right? Because the days on market is faster than the city in general, which means the competition is slower than you are. And for a full % higher. Why is the full 1% higher such an important number to know?
Because it's more money in the price,
Yeah.
right?
Because it
It's selling for
represents,
more than you listed.
it represents dollars in their pocket, right? If your numbers on average say that your listings sell for 101% list to sale, and the city in general is at 100%, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm curious, are you interested in an extra $6,500 in your pocket? Right, because when you put that property on the market and it sells for $650, you're looking at an extra 1% versus the averages for the city. So you can use that as an advantage, right? You sell $1 million property, it's $10,000. You sell a $500,000 property, it's $5,000. Here's the other thing that I would use this for. If people are looking to negotiate you on your commission, well, guess what? You can split the difference with them. I'd like 6%. You want to pay 5%. Statistics show that when you list with me, you earn an extra 1%. So why don't we split the difference on that? Let's split that 1%. You hire me at 5.5%. You can still pocket the other 0.5%. Everybody's a winner, right? But you have to know these numbers in order to utilize that as part of an objection handler. Make sense? Any questions on what I showed you so far?
No.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, Robert.
What if you're new and you don't have any sales or anything yet? Would you just compare it to your team or like to your office, I guess,
You got
to the
it. Yeah.
town?
Yeah,
Correct.
that's exactly why I showed you the market centers numbers, because if you don't have history, if you don't have data, right, you just use the market centers. And then what you have to do though is just change how you describe that. You're not describing it that you've done that. It's my team and I have accomplished X, or my team and I have an average of X. Right, so that you're keeping it all copacetic. All right, so let's pivot a minute. Let's go back. If there's no other questions around those, pulling those numbers, let's stay where we are for a minute and start to look at comparing things year over year. So, all right, so we're in Stamford. So let's just stay there for the time being. You're going to run the box, which is what I just clicked out of. So stats and tabular for the box. Well, that didn't work. Hold on a second. What did I do? What did I do? Oh, I have one checked. There we go. Stats and tabular. So when I'm doing year over year comparisons, right, I'm going to do a couple of things. I want to see did we sell more this year versus the previous year? So that's a measure of units, right? So how many units did the city of Stamford have sell in 2021? Right, that's that number there. That's 2,064. So that's closed units. We're going to look here and see what was the median sales price for 2021. And that answer is 535,000. Somebody explain the difference between average and median.
In the average, you add them all up and then you divide them. In the medium, you take the middle price.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the difference here is this closed volume number, 1,246,000, whatever, divided by 2,064 units should give you the average sale price of 604,165. However, you can see here that in Stamford, there was a $7.5 million sale and a $25,000 sale. Do you think those kinds of highs and lows skew the average sale price?
Yes.
Right, and so if you're comparing numbers from a year where there was a $7 million sale in a city that maybe doesn't see, or a town that doesn't see $7 million sales very often, and you're comparing it to the previous year that didn't have one of those anomalies, either high or low, can you see how it can be an inaccurate depiction of either increase or decrease in pricing? So that's why I go ahead and utilize the median, because the median is the middle, which means of the 2,064 units that sold, this 535 was number 1,032, right? Dead in the middle. So they were the same number that sold above it, that sold below it. And the one right in the middle was at 535. So that's the difference between average and median, just in case you needed that. And that's the explanation as to why I choose to use the median when I'm comparing year over year, because I believe it evens out the curve and it takes out some of the anomalies. It just happens to be that this particular city had two anomalies, one really high and one really low. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can also see that 100% was the list to sale ratio in 2021, and 68 days was the average days on the market. Now, just remember one thing about days on market. Days on market is kind of a dopey number, because the way the MLS works is the days don't stop counting until you actually put it as under contract. So if you say under contract CTS, the days on market continue to accrue. Right? It's not until you go to under contract, you see that the days on market actually stops accruing. So it's not really an accurate description of how fast things are selling by the actual days. Because we all know it doesn't take 68 days to sell a house on the market nowadays. And it didn't certainly for most of 2021 or all of 2021. All right, so you pull that data from the box. You then going to go back to the same criteria page and you're going to change the date. You're going to look at the previous year, right? So now you're doing the numbers for 2020 because you want a year over year picture. So what we get down here, we can already see we sold far fewer homes in 2020 than we did in 2021. So we click results, we click stats, and we click tabular to get to that box. And the 2020 numbers are as follows. Units sold, 1695. Median sale price, 515,000. List to sale ratio, 98%. And days on market, 86%. 86. So now what do? Now you have 2020's numbers and 2021's numbers. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen a second. Let me just talk to you. What do you do with those numbers? Well, now you have to turn them into percentages, right? So if you're comparing 2020 to 2021 with the data that we just pulled, what you're going to do is you're going to take, if you didn't write the numbers down, it's going to be difficult for you to see. So let me do this. Let me bring up my handy dandy whiteboard first. Let me turn off my camera so you don't have to stare at my belly button. Let me bring up the whiteboard and just kind of run this through with you. Oh, it's like magic. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so here's what we just did. We did 2021 versus 2020. I always apologize in advance for my handwriting. Right, so closed units, that's what that is, closed units. We had 2064 versus 1695. We had $535,000 as the median versus 515 as the median. We had a list to sale of 100% versus 98%. And we had days on market 68 versus 86, right? So the easy ones clearly are here because you have, right, things are selling for an additional 2% versus the year before in terms of a list to sale ratio, and are selling at, is that 18 days faster. How do you do these two? Because that you have to do a little bit of math for. So let me give you what that looks like. The way you calculate the differential, the percentage increase or decrease is you take the differential and divide it by where you started. So where we started is 2020 at 1695. So the first thing you have to do is do 2064 minus 1695 to get the differential between the two. So that's this number minus this number, which gives you 369. And then you're going to take 369 and divide it by this number again, 1695. And you'll get 21.7%. So there was an increase of 21.7% year over year in units sold. Does that make sense? I'll do it. I'll do the same math again with the median sale price in case you didn't get it the first time. So you're going to take this number right here, 535. You're going to subtract the 515, which is this number, which gives you $20,000. You're going to divide that $20,000 by where we started. So we started at 2020 at 515. So you can divide that by 515K. When you divide $20,000 by $515,000, you get an increase of 3.9% year over year price, median sale price increase. Make sense? All right.
Can you put that back up? Sorry, I just want to take a screenshot.
Yes, Julia, I'll put it back up in just a second.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Because I already sat back down. So I will do that. I'm going to show you month supply of inventory, and then I'll write that on the board, and then you can write the whole thing. You can take a screenshot of the whole thing. If I knew you were screenshotting it, I would have tried to write even nicer, but.
I had to make a note of the 515 versus 575, but yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right, so let's run back now, and I'll show you month supply of inventory. Because to me, that's the really important one, because you're using that kind of every single day. You run these, you can run year over year or month over month. By the way, if you're looking to do, last January versus this January, you can just change the time period and see what occurred last January versus what occurred this January, make some of those same comparisons. The time frame can adjust if you so choose. Okay. Oh, I just panicked. It's 2:07, but we started at 1:30, right? Okay, so we're still okay. So let's go back to our criteria and run month supply of inventory. So the month supply of inventory, right? Let's change it up. Let's do the town of Ridgefield month supply of inventory. Now, generally speaking, you're doing month supply of, you can do month supply of inventory for everything. I like to make it more specific. So we'll just leave the property types with the everything for now. But then I'll show you how we can get a little more specific with MSI. And so you need two things for month supply of inventory. You need a closed number and an active number. So the first thing we're going to do is in the closed here, we're going to say 0 minus 90, right? What happened in the last 90 days? Because the market has been moving so quickly, there have been some people who have been using numbers lower than 90 days. I don't subscribe so much to that, simply because I think you need a larger number for accuracy, right? The smaller sample size you have, the less information it's going to give you. So, what happened in the last 30 days may be different than what happened over the last 90 days divided by 3. So the idea of doing the last 90 days gives you a larger sample size. And you can see right here at the bottom, you don't even have to click anything. Right here at the bottom, it tells you how many properties were sold in the last 97 days in the town of Ridgefield, right? It says 97, you see that? So 97 homes sold in 3 months. When you do the math, how many homes is that per month? So you're going to take that 97 and divide it by 3, right? Because 97 is a 3-month number. You want a per month number. So 97 divided by 3 is going to give you, excuse me, 32 1/3. What you've just calculated is the rate of absorption, or absorption rate. So what you know is that across all property types in the town of Ridgefield for the last 90 days, the absorption rate has been 32 1/3 homes a month, which means every single month, on average, 32 homes and a smidge have been selling. So how does that help us with month supply of inventory? Well, now we have to take that number, that calculated absorption rate of 32 1/3 per month, and we have to compare it to how many homes are actively on the market. So I just simply click off of closed, right? Because we had closed on, I click off of closed and on to active. And the active numbers right here at the bottom, there are 32 active properties. So if you divide the absorption rate into the active properties, 32 1/3, or 32 divided by 32 1/3 is now going to give you just less than 1 month's supply of inventory. In other words, there's nothing on the market and everything's selling very, very rapidly, right? That's there's the interpretation of that.
Rick, I can't see that bottom number on my screen. I know, could you just tell me the 30, no, down the very bottom, is it 33 and 33?
No, it's so the matches for actives is 32.
32, thank you.
Yeah. Why is month supply? I'm going to run through this again. I'm going to pick another city and I'm going to run through it again so you can hear it again. Why is month supply of inventory so important to a buyer or a seller? How are you using these numbers?
To a seller, because to a seller, because it tells them how quick it could sell and for how much, since it's selling so quick. For
All right,
a buyer,
so stop there a second, Robert. Let's talk about that. So it tells them how fast, right? It tells them the velocity of the market. I would write that phrase down, right? Month supply of inventory gives the seller the velocity of the market. What's the pace of the market? How fast is the market moving? And that allows sellers to make decisions about not only timing, but pricing. Because if the market's moving swiftly and it is such an extreme seller's market, like 1 month supply of inventory actually indicates, they can make some different decisions than if there were 5 months supply or 8 months supply. Right? Is that making sense? I'm going to put in the chat here just in case you need it. So 0 to 4, seller's market. 5 to 6, transitional market. Over 6, buyer's market. Right, so in your conversations, you then need to help people understand kind of where they're at, where the balance of power actually is. And these numbers help do that in a more objective way than I heard things were really hot or I heard things were really slow. When you actually can calculate these numbers and give them facts and data, this either helps to prove what they've heard or disprove what they heard. Right, and this is rooted in facts and numbers. And since numbers are the language of business, we like to deal in numbers as often as we can. So I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to change things up a little bit, right? I'm going to say I'm going to be listing a single family property in Weston. Right, so single family in Weston. I want to know what the month supply of inventory is for single family homes in the town of Weston. So I've changed things up. I have single family as the property type. I have Weston as the city. I'm going to go and do the same math. I'm going to do closed for 0 to 90. And so closed in the last 3 months is 41. So if you divide 41 by 3, because 41 is 3 months and you want a per month average. So 41 divided by 3 is 13 2/3. And then, so you've just calculated the absorption rate. The rate of absorption in Weston for single family homes is 13 2/3 homes a month over the course of the last 90 days. Compared to the number of active single family homes of 21. So across all price ranges, there are 21 homes. So you're going to take that 13 2/3 and divide it into the active number of 21. So 21 divided by 13 2/3 is 1.5. So single-family housing in Weston, you have 1.5 months supply of inventory. And what that means is if nothing else came on the market and everything stayed the same, you'd be out of inventory in a month and a half based on the current number of homes that are on the market and the current trends about how things are being absorbed by buyers. Does that help? I'm going to do it one more time, not to beat a dead horse, but I want you to just hear the formula one more time, and I'll do it. Let's see if there's a difference in. So how would I figure out the median sale price in Weston? If someone said, well, what's the median sale price in Weston for single family homes? Let me show you this real quick, and then I'll go back and do the price point conversation around month supply of inventory. So this top stuff stays the same, right? You have the city of Weston chosen, you have single family chosen. Down here, you're going to choose a price, choose a closed range. And if it were me, I would just do the previous year, right? Because we're at the beginning of the year, you can do all of 2021, or you can just do 0 minus 365. That's a rolling 12 months. Either is valid. So in the past 12 months, 239 homes have sold in the town of Weston. We click results, stats and tabular. We're going to go right back to the box. And the median sale price is 115. See how I got that? Just went right back to the box with a time period that's 12 months rolling backwards. And then right here, close price and median, where those two intersect, median sale price of 1.15.
And Rick, you like to use median versus average? I may have missed that. I'm sorry if you mentioned it before.
I did, yes, I use median.
Okay.
I use median because it irons out the anomalies of high-priced sales and low-priced sales.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So here's what's kind of fun. What if we started to look at whether or not the month supply of inventory was different in Weston for properties that fall below the median versus properties that fall above the median? So the first thing we have to know is, well, what's the median sale price? So I just showed you where to find that. You just go to the box for Weston. Now, before we, whoops, keep doing that, clicking too fast. Before we do that, let me just show you how, if you did an actual date range, how that either changes or not the results, right? So 1/1/21 to 12/31/21, so that's all of 2021. If you do results, stats, tabular on that, you can see that the median sale price for all of last year was 1.11, which means it's actually in the first month of the year gone up a little bit by $40,000, because we just said it was 1.15 rolling 12 months. So again, neither one is necessarily wrong. As a percentage, it's almost the same number. However, it may, depending on what you're attempting to show, you may choose one over the other because it may underscore the point better than not. All right, so let me go back now and answer the question that I posed earlier. So now I want to see the month supply of inventory below the median and above the median in Weston. So below the median, so we're going to put in a price of 1,150, 0 to 1,150, right? And then we're going to do the same two calculations. We're going to do 0 minus 90. We're going to calculate the month supply of inventory differently based on price point. Everything else is the same. We've just given it a price point. So price point for single family housing. Remember, I didn't add any other property types. Although in Weston, I could probably add all these property types and it wouldn't change much, right? Because for the most part in Weston, you have single family housing and almost nothing else. right? So in the last 90 days, below the median, 19 homes have sold. 19 divided by 3 to get a per month average is 6 1/3. So 6 1/3 is the absorption rate for single family properties under the median of 1.15 in the town of Weston over the course of the last 90 days. Now I need to calculate month supply of inventory. So I click off of closed and on to active. Currently below the median, there are 8 properties on the market. So 8 divided by 6 1/3 is going to be 1.26. So we'll round it to 1.3. Right, 1.3 months supply of inventory. Everyone sees what I did there? I know I'm doing, it seems like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, but I'm doing that for your benefit so that you can hear exactly how it sounds and kind of drill that into your head. So now let's, yes.
I have a question. How do you know that is below the median price? How I missed that. I follow up everything else, just I don't know how you know is below.
Right, so what I did was when I flipped off of this and went to the box for Weston, the box for Weston had a median sale price of 1,150. And so,
Yes.
so then I came back here and I ran these numbers from 0 to 1,150. So I put in the price, I bracketed out that price point for everything from 0 up to the median. And now I'm going to change it from there to 1,151 plus. So now I'm going to do everything over the median. That's how I segmented it out. You use the price, the pricing field to skew it down.
Okay, got it. Yes, yes.
So now I'm going to come back and do the same exercise, 0 minus 90. So 0 minus 90 over the median in Weston is 22 sales in the last 3 months. Divided by 3 to get a per month average, you have 7 1/3. Click off of closed and onto active. There are 13 properties on the market above the median, divided by 7 1/3, which is the absorption rate, and you have 1.8 months supply of inventory. So what do you know when you break it down? What do you know about the market that's under the median versus the market that's over the median? Now, don't overthink it. Just based on the two numbers, 1.3 months supply of inventory below the median, 1.7 months supply of inventory above the median. What do you know?
Below the median is moving faster.
Exactly right. Right below the median in Weston, at least for the last 90 days, is moving faster than properties above the median. And so in a conversation with, now, are they still both moving ridiculously fast, both above and below?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%, right? They're both less than 2, right? So they're both moving very quickly. However, one does have to exercise a little bit more caution if one's listing something over 1,150 in the town of Weston, because there is a little bit more inventory, things are moving a little bit more slowly, which, by the way, is not uncommon, right? In Fairfield County, almost always things below the median move faster than things above the median. Usually with a larger gap in month supply of inventory. Usually when you do that exercise above and below the median, the numbers are much different. Are much more different, excuse me, than the numbers we came up with here. However, it's almost always the case where below the median is moving faster than above the median. Not always, but oftentimes. And so you just get to have those conversations to help sellers understand that with your $1.8 million property, we just need to be a little bit more specific about how the pricing is going to relate to value to buyers, to the comps that are out there for appraisals, right? All those things matter a little bit more over the median than they do below the median. Do you hear how these conversations can be had using these objective numbers when you start to really pull the data out and write things down and then kind of bring that to the sellers to understand how things are moving. It's not just about what the numbers look like. This starts to explain why the numbers that they're going to choose are the numbers and why one number might be better than another number. This is the why behind the what that we're going through now, or at least one of the whys. By the way, you can also use this information when you're talking with buyers, right? Buyers in Weston, regardless of the price point, all know if there's less than 2 months supply of inventory, which means it's a very heavily weighted seller's market, which means the balance of power is not in their favor, which means they're likely going to have to fight for homes and do the things that buyers have been doing for the last 18 months. Making sense? Carly, yes.
So if you got a decimal, like let's say you got 0.2 for the area that you're targeting, does that mean it has like how would you express that in months, I guess?
Yeah,
Like
so,
how would you?
So less than 1, so 0.2, you're talking about, days. I mean, it's if you think about every 0.25 is a week, if there's on average 4 weeks in a month, right? Every
Okay,
0.25.
so that's how you would do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I look at it. So 0.2, if you just kind of round things up, it's like there's about a week supply of inventory in that particular area.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, in other words, there just ain't nothing to sell.
So even better reason to list.
Yeah, no, 100%, right? It's a perfect opportunity to help people understand what the opportunity is to be a seller right now. Okay, is 227. That's for the most part what I wanted to go over with you today. What didn't I do that you'd like to spend a few minutes on, or what questions do you have about what I did show you in terms of using the MLS to get those numbers and then utilizing those numbers objectively with your buyers and your sellers? What questions do you have? What did I miss? Tell me how else I can help.
Quick question. I know you probably ran over it, but other things that go into pricing of homes, like people moving from other cities, can you find out information on the MLS, or how would you go about that?
So are you talking about finding out where buyers are coming from?
Right, because I imagine the whole thing about knowing your numbers is how the market is going, how the pricing is going to change, if you can predict it. But other ideas that go into that is, people moving from other places, jobs being created somewhere else. How would I look up that information?
Yeah, so I'll answer that two ways. The first answer I have is be careful not to get too in the weeds on some of that stuff as it relates to pricing, right? Because some of that is a little bit more subjective than it is objective. When you use objective numbers looking in the rearview mirror about what's happened in the last 90 days and then compare that to what is currently on the market, you're using objective numbers on both sides of things to indicate exactly what has to happen right now to be competitive. All those other things that come into play is a little bit like having a crystal ball looking forward, which I'm not sure I would not volunteer that I had that crystal ball. Are there ways to find out who's moving here and who's moving out? Sure, you can Google some analytics on that about I forget exactly what it's called. It's called I can't remember it, but go to Google. Google's your friend on that. There's also some information inside of Command on the KW referral network about where buyers are coming from. There's also information if it's put in by the listing agents there's information in the MLS about people coming from out of town or staying or from in county or whatnot. But again, all of that I think is secondary to the actual statistics. It's a secondary conversation. Dee, and then Michelle, and then Carla.
I just want to comment on that, having moved from, before I was a Realtor a long time ago. I moved from out of the area to Ridgefield 3 times. So I'm trying to understand what his question is. So if I could get a little more clarity on that, I'm getting a phone call. I'd love to help, because if you're trying to help someone from out of the area move here and get clarity for them, I can help with that. But if you're trying to answer a question from somewhere else, I moved from Chicago, Philadelphia, and Boston to this area. So what are you trying to help with? And I'm happy to have them call me, okay?
Yeah,
It's
so
very
do
different.
use Dee as a resource on that. But I think the point that I heard, and I'm sorry, because I think, Jonathan, was that you who asked the question? I think it
Yeah,
was.
how about Jonathan?
Yeah, but
Yeah, it sounded to me like what you were asking was, does some of that kind of demographic mobility information color how we might price a property? And the answer is no, it really
No.
doesn't.
I'm going to say no as well. And it was always sticker shock coming back here, even though I got, at the time, I thought I had enough money. And coming to the Northeast, I'm going to say, coming from the Midwest or Philadelphia or somewhere else, you never have enough money when you're coming to this area. So that's my answer, folks. Sorry, but it's about helping them to see what they can get and where they can be, and making it as easy as possible to move to our area and show them all the good things we have to offer.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Okay, so what I've learned is that the numbers and mathematics that you just went through is definitely not for me or my strong point. But I would have to get more help in the future to pull this information together. But so I came on today because I wanted to see how hard it was. Can I do it? Yes. Do I want to? Probably not. But what I wanted to take away from here today, no matter what, is I do a lot of posting on social media, and I'm all about the social aspect, but I need to put some more grounding in what I'm putting out there. So I need more statistics, more of this kind of stuff. Where can I find things that make me look smarter than I am about the statistical information? I'm looked at Keeping Matters Current, NARS, real estate. I'm wondering if anybody who's still left on this call, or you, Rick, have any suggestions of where you might look for simple statistical information that can be inserted into social media without a lot of effort, if that even exists.
Yeah, John, I'm going to go to you in half a second, but before you answer, I'm going to shortcut the answer by saying, please remember, everybody within the sound of my voice, that social media is just another way for you to advertise and market to the general public. And we have a duty, a proactive duty, to advertise and market utilizing valid current statistical information. We have to paint a true and correct picture of what's actually going on. The reason I show you guys how to pull your own stats is because the only way I know how to guarantee that the numbers I'm posting are correct is if I pull them myself. Right? So there may be spots that and I'm going to open it up to the room, and if there are spots that you think are awesome to go and grab stats, that's great. I just want you to recognize that you need to understand where those stats are coming from and that they're actually accurate before you post them, or else it's you and your license that's on the line for not creating a true and accurate picture, right? So that's why I believe everything you do should be able to be backed up. It's why you need to understand how the numbers work and where you get them. Because I wouldn't post anything online or in an ad or on a billboard or wherever you're doing it without sourcing it on the actual post that says source Smart MLS from this date to this date, so that anybody who's reading that or questioning it knows what the source is. When you just start throwing, it drives me nuts when people just start throwing out numbers. I ran into somebody the other day who's, this is completely off topic, but a little bit of a soapbox and on the same general topic, who claimed to be the #1 agent in Connecticut. Really? Are you sure? I've never heard of you. And when I looked up, when I actually put his numbers in and looked him up, I thought, okay, if you're the #1 agent in all of Connecticut, Connecticut's got a really big problem. Right? So how did I know that he wasn't the #1 real estate agent in Connecticut? Because I'm in business with some of the #1s in Connecticut. And it's not him. Right? So when people are just taking numbers and throwing them out there saying #1 or up this percent or up that percent without actually sourcing it, all the validity goes out the window. So don't make the mistake of being one of those people. Know the numbers, know why they matter. Because here's the other thing I'm going to say to you. Nobody cares about numbers that you post. What they care is about why those numbers are a benefit to them. So if you want to utilize marketing and advertising in your posting and in your other stuff, draw conclusions from the numbers that you run and use that as your marketing angle. Less than 1.5 months supply of inventory in the town of Weston. Why does anyone care about that? Nobody even knows what that means. So instead, the conversation is, with 1.5 months supply of inventory in Weston, you could make more money today as a seller than you have in the last 20 years. Call me today to find out more, right? That's why it's important to them. So I know that was a little bit of a soapbox. John, what were you going to say? And then D.
You took like half of my answer, but what I was gonna say is like keeping current matters and knowledge everything is good for having a general sense of what the market is doing, but that only really matters if you know what your current, wherever you're located, Michelle, is, what the numbers there look, and it goes down to the idea of being the local economist of choice. And once you have your own numbers, then you're able to tell that a better story because you also know the NAR numbers and what the nation is doing. Then you have something to compare it to, which then makes you look more credible and more smart. And then in terms of like posting it, no one, and it might sound a little blunt, but like no one goes on social media besides us and it's like new listings, which like, so if you plan on posting numbers, you have to do it in a way that, as Rick said, A, tells it why it's beneficial to them, and B, is engaging. Because the way social media works, if people are scrolling past your posts, then whatever platform you're using, they're just going to keep pushing it down, meaning no one will ever see it. So if you're not engaging anyone to actually read those numbers, however you decide to present it, strongly suggest from using a Canva poster, even KW, the command designs, because as I said, they look pretty and all, but everyone's going to scroll past it. Make a little quick little video, a little selfie video or something like that, and say why it's important. And then, yeah, Rick stole the rest of my answer, but yeah.
You know what they say about great minds, John. So it all of a sudden occurs to me, like if there's some big number right out there, so prices are up 22%. Use some version of like the Home Alone kid. Don't use the Home Alone kid because then you might have copyright infringement issues. But you use some version of like somebody with an oh my God face on, right? Those kinds of things that combined with the boring real estate side of things, those kinds of things stop the scroll more because now they're more engaging. People are like, oh my God, what is that person all excited about? Or what is that person freaked out about? Right. So remember that, John's point is you got to stop the scroll. If it's boring and doesn't stop the scroll, you're not accomplishing what you want to on social media. Go ahead, D.
All right, really quickly, but I'm sorry, D. Debbie has a very good video on the KW203 YouTube page that I actually use myself for how she tracks the stats from the market. So that's how I've been doing it for the past 2 months. So I suggest looking into that video, and it's on the KW203 YouTube.
I love that. D, I was concerned about you all of a sudden. I thought, my God, your voice is very deep all of a sudden. See, adopt.
I just borrowed John's voice, that's all.
Go ahead, bring us home.
Okay, I have a couple of things. I did Ridgefield's numbers, which were fascinating to me, because I have to do a presentation actually, and I have a meeting this week. And 2021's closed units are considerably lower than 2020. So I guess that's an inventory issue. So that would be my take home from that. And our median went up 100,000.
Yes.
So that was significant. So what's MSI again? Can you tell me what that is? You put that at the bottom of that list and I just didn't get what that was.
Yeah, it's months supply of inventory.
Oh, that's absorption. Okay, sorry. Of
Yep.
course, I know that I use it all the time. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Got it.
And just remember, so that we're all speaking the same language, right?
Okay.
Absorption rate is one of the numbers you use to calculate month's supply of inventory,
Yeah.
right? So whatever that number is that you then divide into the actives, that's the absorption rate, which you then use to come up with month's supply of inventory. They're
Yeah,
not necessarily interchangeable.
Yes, I get it. I just have been using it for so long that for
Perfect.
my spa.
Got it. All right, so I know Julie wanted me to put that screen back up so she could take a screenshot if she's still here. Yes, she is. So I will do that right now. And if anybody else has any questions, don't hesitate to email or text me. I'll be happy to answer. I will see some of you later at 4 o'clock for Ignite. We start buyers tonight, the buyer consult, and we finish up the anatomy of a buyer transaction. So I'm excited to see you guys later. And if not, I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock on the 9 a.m. Zoom. Have a great one.
Thank you, Rick.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Because I think I can. No, I have, the first one I have to do without anything checked. I scroll down and somebody's got noise. I added a field down here that says listing contract date. You can make your own custom fields on the MLS.
I got it. Thank
So
you.
I add listing contract date because I use it all the time. And my period that I'm studying is 11/1. Oops, why did it not go? 11, come on, why are you not going? 11, there we go. 1, 2021, no,